Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Washing Dishes. Today, we're going to get straight into making a classic European comfort food borscht! It's one of my favorites, and I'm not feeling well, so let's make some comfort food. So, I recorded, edited, and VO'd this while I had a nasty case of the sniffles. So, I hope you'll give me some grace if it isn't up to my usual standards. I just wanted to make borscht for dinner anyway, and I didn't want to miss my schedule by like a whole week, so I figured I'd go for it. To start, I'm going to cut up a bunch of veggies. I'll have a list of what I used in the description, but basically, you want about 2 pounds of veggies per pound of beets and pound of potatoes. You probably don't want to leave out carrots, celery, and some kind of allium. I'm using onion and leek for that one, and then I'm also using some parsnips in addition to the carrots and some other stuff. Um, yeah. It happens that this recipe is vegetarian and mostly vegan. We'll get to that later, which makes it more of the traditional Jewish American version of borscht than the Ukrainian Eastern European version. But being an American Jew of Ukrainian ancestry, I am going to do a little bit of a callback to the Slavic version. Basically, the European borscht tends to have like slow simmered, really rich cuts of like beef and pork and sometimes sausage, that kind of stuff. Um, like I said, I haven't been feeling well, but yeah, I'm leaving that out of this version just to make it a little bit lighter. I've been cutting the veggies into a variety of shapes, but generally trying to keep everything about the same thickness so that it cooks at a similar rate. I like having variety in the shapes, or as Adam Ragusa would say, heterogeneity. You generally want them to be small enough to fit a few pieces on a spoon, but not so small that they fall apart in the soup. Somewhere in the half to 3/4 of an inch range should be good. The onions can be diced a bit smaller because we're fine with cooking them down quite a bit. To save my larger cutting board and my hands from being dyed red, I'm going to use gloves and my jankier cutting board for the beets. Uh, Strongly recommend. Anyway, I'm peeling the beets but not the potatoes because I'm using Yukon Golds, though you could also use red potatoes. Russets have a really thick skin, like beets, so you'd want to peel them and then add them later, and it's not worth it. Just stick to the waxier varieties of this. If you wanted to make borscht that wasn't red, you could make golden borscht using golden beets. It would be interesting. I've done it. It's the same kind of thing, just not the traditional color. It's kind of fun. But we're going to dice the beets into cubes about the same size as the other veggies. And I don't know, I feel like cubes for beets is correct. You could grate these. In fact, you could grate almost all of the vegetables for this if you wanted to if you wanted to get it done very quickly. But I'm not because I felt like doing the knife work. It's good practice. I'm also going to shred a little bit of red cabbage, but that's just for garnish later. With all of our veggies diced, we're going to go ahead and start cooking. Add a little bit of oil to the pan, and while the oil's heating up, I'm going to add some garlic and some caraway seeds. I love the way caraway seeds taste. They're the primary flavor in rye bread, as it happens. But yeah, this is just going to kind of infuse those flavors into the oil, and then we're just going to add our veggies in the order of basically in the order of hardness. We add the harder veggies first so that everything ends up kind of the nice same texture at the end. The one exception to that rule, though, is going to be the onions, which we're going to go ahead and add right up front because we do want them to soften and kind of melt into the rest of the soup. So we're going to get those going at kind of a medium heat, and we're going to basically cook most of this soup at that medium heat. So we'll pop these in, a little bit of salt and pepper, just to kind of get them going. And now it's time for the rest of our aromatics, starting with the carrots, which we're going to add in a little bit of salt, stir around. Then the celery, salt, stir around. And again, you're going to want to stir this occasionally, just, every once in a while so nothing sticks. Then it's time for the parsnips, and again, salt and stir. And then the last of our aromatics is going to be the leeks, which I'm just kind of breaking up in my hand as I go. And we're going to let these go for something like 10 minutes, maybe 15, just to let them kind of sweat and release their flavors. And now that we've let them go for a little bit, it's time to get down to the real kind of main event. We'll give this a quick stir just to get everything that might get stuck off and mix everything together real well. And then it's time for the beets. We're going to toss them in and stir them around. I'm going to let them go for just a couple of minutes before I add the salt, just to kind of get them coated with the oil and the various kind of liquids from the other veggies and that kind of stuff. But then we're going to stir them in and let it go for a little bit. With the beets in, it's time to go ahead and add our stock. Yes, I'm using boxed chicken stock. Yes, I'm sick and didn't really feel like taking the time to make veg stock. Did I say chicken stock? I'm using vegetable stock. This base recipe is vegan. Sorry. Again, still recovering while I do this voiceover. But yeah, we're going to add a little bit of stock just to kind of loosen up the stuff on the bottom, and then we're going to go ahead and add the rest of the stock in. And once it's up to a simmer, we're going to go ahead and pop in our potatoes, and then let it come back up to a simmer, and then let it simmer like that, uncovered, loosely covered. It kind of just depends. You want to moderate it based on how much reduction you get. For basically, I don't know, half an hour, 20 minutes until everything's nice and tender and delicious. Now, one of the key things about borscht is that it has a really, really, really signature kind of kind of sweet and sour flavor. I don't know why it took me so long to say that. Anyway, yeah. So I'm gonna taste it to see where it's at. Add a little bit of vinegar. Taste it again. Add a little bit of honey, and kind of just go back and forth until it tastes the way I want it to taste. The quantities in the recipe in the description are approximate for the vinegar and the honey. It should get you close, but definitely taste and go back and forth until it's how you like it. How sweet, how sour something is definitely one of those things that is different for everyone, and you should make food that you're going to like the way it tastes. It took me, I think, like 3 additions of vinegar and 2 additions of honey to get it the way I wanted. So, yeah, it's okay if it takes you a little bit. Just add it a little at a time so that you don't overshoot the mark. And then for a little bit of good old Slavic flair and to, add a little bit of extra protein to the dish, I'm just going to saute up a little bit of good old kielbasa sausage. Beef kielbasa, as it happens. I could have used pork, but, it's a Jewish dish. Let's leave the pork somewhere in, a different version of it. And sick as I was, I lost some footage here. I'm going to go ahead and add the sausage on top. And then in a sec, I'm going to add some crema that is a mixture of yogurt, horseradish, honey, and dill. And I don't really have a recipe for it. It's just like 4 ounces of yogurt and then enough honey that you can taste the honey, enough horseradish that you can taste the horseradish, and enough dill that you can taste the dill, and then a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm going to pop that right on top. It's wash from the future here. It's delicious. I'm going to make it again. And then just a little bit of raw red cabbage. Mostly, like for crunch and because it looks super pretty. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of, extra dill here just to kind of make it look nice and kind of add a little bit of extra greenery. There was also supposed to be a beautiful shot of me tasting this and smiling because it was so delicious. But remember how I lost some footage. Yeah, sorry. Beauty shot. So yep, here it is, our finished Jewish American Ukrainian Slavic. It's borscht. It's delicious. I can't recommend it enough. Thank you. TV/Wash in the Wind. I'm on Twitter at Wash in the Wind, and I'm on Instagram at Wash in the Wind, but without the E, mostly because of the character limit. If you'd like to show some support, a Twitch sub or a Patreon subscription would be wonderful. But what helps the most is a like, a subscribe here, and sharing the video with your friends. I hope you've had a wonderful time enjoying the video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your time zone. Thanks very much for watching.